Hey guys, believe we can start. So welcome to the Marketing Connects Copenhagen online event. We're really happy that you joined, and we hope to deliver today very interesting content talking about marketing in the new normal.
Yeah, and for those of you guys who don't know who we are Nyanda and Dalia, the two faces behind this initiative. We started this last autumn, and we're hoping to provide some interesting content to the whole marketing community here in Copenhagen. And the whole thing that we're trying to do here is that we're trying to connect you in between each other and help you get inspired while learning and sharing interesting things that are happening in the community. And we're typically doing this during physical events. Today is a special day because we're adapting to this new normal and doing things online. But we hope to see your faces soon at one of our next events. And I think today I'm going to give it up to Dalia to tell you a bit more about.
Yeah. So we would like to encourage you to follow us on one of your preferred social media channels. So these are the handles. Please do and share about your experiences in this event or in the ones upcoming in the future. And today we have three amazing speakers from our community here in Copenhagen who will be sharing with you all about the marketing in the new normal from their own perspectives. So the very first speaker will be Steffen from AKQA, who will be sharing more about the marketing strategies and how to adjust your marketing activities during these times.
Yeah, exactly. And he'll have some stuff for you as well, as you can see from his title. And then we're having Sarah from Boon. Sarah's going to have a super interesting approach and talk about company branding, how we as marketeers should revive, reset, and reinvent ourselves during this new normal.
Yes, and finally, we will have Casper from Templafy, who will be sharing how you can uncover your potentials for growth during this crisis. So before we start, just want to mention that you are welcome to ask the questions in the Q&A, and we will have a Q&A in the very end of the session. So please do fill it out. And and before we give the scene to Steffen, we have a small poll for everyone.
Yes, we're gonna share a little fun poll at right now. Just to get us a little bit in the mood. And good.
So please do participate.
So hand on heart, are you wearing pajamas right now? Let's see what the crowd is saying. Never. Ooh, the graph is moving. Okay, let's give it a couple of 20 seconds more.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so what? Pretty close.
Yeah.
Some of you never
wear PJs.
Most of you business on top, pajamas on the bottom. I kind of agree. I'm one of those as well most of the time. So good, interesting.
Okay, so now we can hear from someone who is actually wearing trousers. And Steffen, please do prove that to the audience.
Perfect. So I think we're going to give it to Steffen right now, and we're going to mute ourselves, and you'll see our faces after Steffen is done with his presentation. So give a round of digital applause to Steffen.
Yeah. Enjoy the talk.
Well, thank you all, and thank you, Marketing Connect, for letting me give my 2 cents, or whatever this is worth, on what Corona has actually taught me and my fellow comrades here at AKQA. Before I deep dive into that, just a quick word on AKQA. If you haven't heard about us, now you have, and we're a company that has been around since '95, creating a better future with our clients. And within the talk, I'll make sure to to show you guys a bit of the things we've been doing, but mostly it's a talk about the thinking and how it's been reinforced or reapplied, the way we conduct ourselves during Corona. Hope you can use it. So first of all, I think it's only fair to state that we are our global agency. We are in 29 offices all over the world. And we, of course, we've been doing a ton of Corona responses. These 9 here are just a tiny sample. You can please feel free to go to AKQA.com and check them out following this. There's everything from helping people drink more beer during the crisis while helping the bars getting back stronger, to selling expensive watches online in the best possible way, to actually use Minecraft as a way of educating young people how to keep the social distance. So it's all quite good. But going to what we have learned during the Corona, I think it's important for me to say that the way I see it, the past 3 months, nothing has changed, except perhaps the perspective and the context of our thinking. And this is, I'll try and unfold that in a way during these live examples. So first of all, we have this saying that speed matters. This is way more true than it's ever been. It goes without saying that whenever you're doing a work every day, you are in a hurry, you bust your ass and you run around making decisions, coming up with great ideas, making them come to life. And you are so fast, right? Well, my best bet is that had you asked me 3 months ago, I would say that no one would be doing better, faster work than AKQA. But the thing is, we have seen ourselves as a company pick up pace tremendously during the past 3 months. As an example, the Carlsberg Adopt a Cake Corona response that's global right now was a campaign that before Corona would be done in everything from 3 to 6 months time, really, right from the time when Carlsberg would, as a company, acknowledge the fact that they need to actually have something going on, and then to kind of get the agencies on board. This was done with Gray and AKQA combined, but we did this right from the moment where the client came to realize that something needed to be done, to we went online. It took 14 days, and the 14 days, I cannot stress how fast that is, because not only did we do the above the line comms and the TVC, which was actually filmed without any people on set, pretty much, and it was the same time we did an entire digital solution to the consumer and to the on-trade. So a lot of work that happened within just 14 days. Don't ask me how we did it, or actually do ask me how we did it, because I think the major learning here is that speed matters. And whenever a company is struggling, you cannot wait to go out there and grab the attention of people. We all know this, but this has just proven way more valuable during Corona than usually. So a change of perspective and a change of context got me rethinking what speed really is. Another thing that we've always been saying is that beautiful work that works, this is what we create. I do think that actually this still holds to be true. All these testaments do. But during Corona, we also learned that given time constraints and given financial constraints from clients, here's an example of the wellness training mind app IO, that the beautiful work is not can take too much time. So we need to apply thinking instead. So the slight change that we made to to IO to create a Corona response was actually to give it away for free. So we changed the payment terms in the app, and that was really it, and then made the comms around it. This was done in a few days, and goes without saying that our marketing campaign following the Corona response, the paid advertising we did, just went through the roof in acquisition. Of course it did, because we were giving it away for free. But once again, our most important thing here is to get users on board, and here we had a really good opportunity. So I do think that the beautiful, simple thinking here applied, and we can keep applying that going forward. We have also always built into our briefs the purpose, a purpose, and this is quite a biggie, because I think some of you might be tired of speaking purpose at this point in time. Some of you actually just pre-Corona, you were tired of speaking purpose. I think the Corona taught us the purpose is still really much a thing that we need to consider. This is some of the work we did for Nike, in which we made the living room cup. We had to scrap pretty much all other marketing campaigns, but good then that with a client like Nike, we can utilize their purpose, which is to actually have everyone, you know, be an athlete. Everyone with a body is an athlete in their mind. And we made that something that was true and honest, and that really worked. And we even had Cristiano Ronaldo in his home doing crazy reps. And for the record, people actually beat his time there. So that was kind of cool. But in essence, make sure in the future to build purpose in, it will be even more important following Corona than it was before, because people just came to realize during Corona that we want to interact with brands that do something good either for me or actually for the world as a whole. Moving on from Cristiano Ronaldo, there are some trends that I think you should really consider when going ahead. One of those trends would be that that privacy before Corona was a thing for all those tinfoil hats wearing people out there. In essence, it wasn't any fun. You know, we had GDPR. If you are a modern day marketeer, you've been spending the past 2 years concerned about GDPR. But I bet too, and this is a hard claim, I know, that most of you didn't really care about GDPR. It was just something you needed to sort out kind of on the side. And I was all the way there with you. Right now, what this shows on the screen is actually people all over the world going, amok on Twitter, because states has been enforcing making Corona apps to enforce social distancing, or actually a better word is physical distancing for people. And I think that what we've learned here is that what was for the very few before is now something that everyone's aware of. Digital can be bad. A free meal can be handed over and actually become too expensive for you. And I do think that being a marketer post-Corona, you will have to consider the trade-off and the value you provide in your services or through the services that you actually use. Another trend, I think, and please bear in mind, these are trends. Don't kill me if they don't turn out to be right, but I see a lot of this going this way, is to adopt to what people do, not what you want them to do. So the best responses actually wasn't apps built either by states, governments, or marketeers, or tech companies for that matter. It was actually making use of behavioral design to rescape the world that we lived in, to be a world that we could still go out into, meet other people while we were still staying safe. I really love this, even though I have been doing more tech than anyone for many, many years. The simplicity of reinforcing the fact that washing your hands is perhaps the best thing you can do. So when you need to consider what you do in the future, please think behavioral methods and science into this. Really try to work hard to make stuff that people would want to do instead of what you would want them to do. Another thing, all going in this line, is actually promoting within your own organization the move from thinking CSR into CR. So getting rid of the social bit. It's still corporate social responsibility, but without the social. So corporate responsibility. Some very fine examples throughout the world. Here in Denmark, Lego, but like many, many, many others throughout the world that had physical production facilities, remade those physical production facilities into something that would actually create personal protection equipment, you know, face masks and the like. I do think that the companies that honestly participated changing product lines into this will come out way stronger, and within their marketing communication, even the above the line communication, they will be left in a very good position once consumers start thinking about spending money again. So please take that with you as well. Another thing, facts are coming back in high demand. Even before Corona, we were getting tired of companies, politicians, and influencers stating whatever, you know. I do think that that just yesterday Twitter launched this new service that will actually highlight a tweet if it's proven to be non-fact oriented. And the first guy to get 2 marks was actually Donald Trump, which is always a fun story. That people are now today trying to break Twitter with this, but I do think it's a good thing. We together in AKQA with Facebook made their new panel come alive last week as well. So we are actually trying very hard to make the social channels be a place where people can trust the information they get to a higher extent than they can today. Considering that as a marketer is very important. You know, all the Corona responses made by companies that didn't turn out to be, in fact, honestly helping them. There was this site, didtheyhelp.com, you can check it out, where they're actually testing whether or not the companies claiming to be helping did help. So stay transparent and stay true. So in essence, what I've said here, nothing new actually. So as I said in the beginning, nothing has changed, but the perspective and the context, and which left me with the feeling that everything has been amplified. So speed should be way faster, and the thinking and the beautiful things should be created with bigger aspiration and a more pure heart, and the purpose should be truly and honestly built in, both to marketing and to product. And with that, I will leave you. I hope that was at least some food for thought on a sunny, shiny Wednesday afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Steffen. Super interesting, and loved your slides. Very, very cool, and very nice design as well. Didn't expect less from AKQA. We also have some questions for the Q&A, but I think we'll save them for the end. I just want to tell everybody in the room here that if you have any questions for the speakers, please post them in the Q&A. We have one for Steffen, but if you have one specifically for any of the speakers, that's also cool. Just mention it there. So I think I'll pass it on to Sarah right now, who's going to talk about personal and company branding, revive, reset, or reinvent. Sarah?
Hi. Yes, good.
The floor is yours.
Hi, guys. So my name is Sarah. For those of you who don't know me, I'm currently the head of customer and activation at Boon. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Boon in a bit. But just to jump in, 1 second. So a little bit about me. I'm Sarah. I'm the head of brand and customer activation at Boon. I am an American who has lived in Copenhagen for the past 6 years. Before Boon, I spent 5 years at Trustpilot, where I got to know the lovely Casper, one of my fellow panelists. And again, moving over to Boon, which I'm going to talk to you guys a bit about my journey to discover Boon as well. So today what we're going to cover is a bit about personal branding. So how you can really use your personal brand as your secret weapon to find your next opportunity, and some actual tips and some insights to get there. So I'm going to tell you guys a really honest and personal story of things that I've been through the past couple of months, and kind of give you a blueprint of how you can learn from some of the things I did to land my next opportunity. And then I'm also going to talk to you guys a little bit about company branding. So how you can adapt your brand strategy and your activities in this new normal, and give you some examples of some companies who have done this really well. So jumping right in, I got laid off. Sadly, I was one of those to be hit by the coronavirus layoff stream. And so it was released on Netflix about the same time. So I had plenty of distractions. But on a serious note, if you find yourself in the same boat, my advice to you is just give yourself a few days to mourn and to reflect. You know, whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, being laid off just absolutely sucks. And it's really, really is a good time to reset and plan your next move. And I'm going to share a little bit today of exactly how you can do that. And I think this advice is also relevant for those who are currently employed, but maybe looking for your next opportunity. I think that these tips can still definitely be applied. So let's get into it. So the first step is start by writing your story. And what exactly do I mean by this? So the best brands, the best stories, the best movies, the best songs, and the best people have a really, really powerful story at their core. So take some time to really reflect on the experiences you've had over the past years, and start to write your personal narrative. So what are your values, both personally and professionally? What are some of the biggest accomplishments and achievements you've learned, maybe the hard way or a positive way? What are your strengths and weaknesses? What are your aspirations for the future? And no matter what's really, really important is that you show your personality. So if you're quirky, be quirky. If you're obsessed with RuPaul's Drag Race like I am, tell a funny anecdote about this. And once you've had some time to really have some reflection and craft your new personal narrative, now it's time to start to share that story. So of course, we all know the power of LinkedIn. I'm sure a lot of you on the line have heard about this great event through LinkedIn. So start to apply your story across your LinkedIn, but also think about looking into making your own universe or your own channel as well. So something that I did was make my own personal blog website. You could do your own branded universe. And the reason why that's powerful is because having your own channel is exactly that. It's your channel. There's no spam, there's no ads, no distractions fighting for attention. It's just your universe to connect with your audience and for those that you want to speak to. And I think a really honest reflection from my end as well is that I didn't really realize all the things I knew from working nonstop for 10 years. So you'll really surprise yourself by sitting down and reflecting and thinking of a unique way that you can tell this story and share this knowledge in your own channel. Tools like Squarespace, like Wix, make it super, super easy. It's basically dummy proof to make a beautiful looking website with no coding required. So definitely look into those tools if you want to make something that is something digital, like a blog or a personal website or something similar. After 5 years at Trustpilot, I'm pretty indoctrinated by the importance and the power of reviews. But seriously, they are really, really, really powerful. So start reaching out to your network, whether you are currently employed or not employed. It's always good to amplify your presence, especially on social media, with recommendations. And once you have these great recommendations, of course, they can live on your LinkedIn. But you can also share them on your website, on your cover letters, really wherever you are trying to find your next opportunity. And what this does, of course, is it's a great selling point for you to land your next opportunity. However, it's really great for your employers to also get an idea of who you are and what it is like to work with you as well. So we as marketeers, we know all about campaigns, and we're doing campaigns probably every single day. But you can also think about doing mini personal branding campaigns. So something that I did was these kind of mini personal branding campaigns on LinkedIn. I started this Women in Leadership Wednesday series. I started to share some interesting that I was reading work as well. Amplify your posts with some beautiful eye-catching graphics. There's tools like Canva that make it super, super easy and basically dummy-proof to make beautiful design. So definitely recommend checking out that tool if you haven't heard of it yet. All right, so let's get into it, what you've been waiting for. So how do you actually find your dream job? So you've written your story, you've crafted your new narrative, you've started to share that story. Maybe you've looked into blogging or doing a podcast. And of course you can start applying to jobs, while you're writing your story and sharing your story. But after step 1 and 2, you'll be in a really, really powerful position to really apply for your dream job. First, super actionable tip that I want to give you guys is this spreadsheet. So I'm not sure how many of you guys have seen this. If you are out of work or you're working for a company that happens to be hiring during this time, this spreadsheet is seriously magic. It helped me get quite a lot of interviews, quite a lot of conversations. So I highly recommend, if you're either hiring or you're looking for an opportunity, definitely put your information into this spreadsheet. Yanda and Dalia will actually link to this spreadsheet in the follow-up communications. But feel free to also reach out to me on LinkedIn if you can't find the link. So one good piece of advice too is just start applying and make sure that you take every single call. Even if the opportunity that you hear about seems maybe too junior, too senior, not 100% your experience level, take the call and hear what they're all about. And also maybe it's not the right fit, that specific opportunity, but you're really excited about the industry or the company. And it could be an opening door for opportunities in the future. And especially for startups, because sometimes startups don't really know what they're looking for, and they do hire based on talent and competence. So definitely take all the calls and hear them out, and also shoot for the moon. Shoot for jobs where you may not have all the experience and it may be a bit too senior. Just go for it during these times. You really have nothing else to lose. And so bringing this all together, so a combination of all of these things led me to find my opportunity at Boon. So I actually just started last week. And for those of you who don't know Boon yet, we are a video platform that empowers creators to monetize their passion via video content. So via live stream and on-demand videos. So Boon is basically a platform for creative entrepreneurs doing anything from wild fooding to disco dancing to wood making to foraging. And they're really able to make a living and scale and build global audiences thanks to digital platforms like Boon. And I think obviously it goes without saying that the past few months have caused all of us to reflect on how we can really lean on digital platforms to make a living. So it's a super, super exciting journey that we're on at the moment. And the role that I was originally in touch with about Boon ended up evolving into something completely different, into the role that I'm in today. After a few discussions with the co-founders, it was very apparent that that specific role wasn't the perfect fit for me. However, there was skills that I could bring to the table that could really, really help the company. So after kind of a few first intro interviews with co-founders, I literally followed up and I wrote them my job description and I said, hey guys, you know, this is where I think I can really provide value and help you out. So this connects back to my point being, go for the opportunity where it might not be super, super relevant or at your level. There might be an opportunity for you to carve out your own path. I'm super excited. I was able to basically create this role where I'm doing a mix of brand building and customer marketing. And it really encapsulates a lot of the skills and also what the business also is looking for as well. And just a quick note on that as well. We're not hiring at the moment any marketers, but we hope to very soon. So definitely keep an eye on Boon. And yeah, we're going to be looking for amazing marketers very, very soon. So watch this space. So now I'm going to switch gears slightly and talk a little bit about company branding. So how can companies adapt their brand strategy, and some examples of some companies that have done this very, very well through this precarious times. So think human to human instead of B2B and B2C. As marketers, we're obsessed with audiences, we're obsessed with B2B, we're obsessed with B2C. But now more than ever, people are really have been through such a turbulent time, maybe in their lifetime. So instead of jumping the gun and doing, you know, a super, super clever marketing campaign, understand what your customers really need and bring solution and comfort to those problems. And a few examples of that in action are from our buddies over at Pleo. I think that this was really cool. They just decided to offer the product basically for free until July for new customers. Understanding that, you know, it's a hectic time for everyone, including businesses, and they just wanted to simplify the finances and expenses process for people. So really good move from Pleo. Audible as well, understanding that, you know, it's really difficult for parents to be balancing the work-life balance of working from home and raising their kids and taking care of the households. So they offered free audiobooks for kids that were stuck at home during Corona times. So my second insight here and advice in terms of brand strategy during turbulent times is do something good. So do something good for the community or the world at large. So Steffen was talking a little bit about this as well. I don't believe that now is the time to, you know, make up a clever CSR campaign or a clever purpose. First, start by reflecting on your values and your mission before you react. And make sure that what you do and what you believe is at the center of your reaction. So I think a really beautiful example of this in action is from the New York Times. So, you know, New York Times believes that information is power and journalism has the opportunity to change the world. So they lifted the paywall during Corona times and also still now for all coronavirus to really make sure that people have access to that really valuable knowledge during these precarious times. So the final point that I want to make here is the next few months are going to continue to bring changes, and we've all seen those start to trickle down into the marketing plan. And something that you could think to do in terms of these times when event plans are in flux, you know, customers might be churning, late payments are coming in, things are still a little bit precarious and up in the air. Think about how you can tell the stories of your customers who have been really inspirational during these turbulent times. A couple of great examples of this in action is Rockamore, so an awesome Danish brand. So what they did is they recently launched this campaign called Rockamore Rebels. And basically it's highlighting the heroes behind the scenes. So this is Alice Nielsen, a chief physician at a hospital in Jutland. And it's telling her story and making her the hero of the campaign. So again, a great way that Rockamore looked at their marketing plan and just adapted it and reinvented their campaign to really focus on these powerful stories of their customers. Another example of this in action is Squarespace. So Squarespace is amazing, probably one of my brand heroes. So what Squarespace did is they basically revamped all of their content and made the hero content on their YouTube page focused on the Squarespace customers who are really giving back to the community. So you'll see here this top video is a mini case study of this company called Invisible Hands Deliver. And it's basically a group of volunteers that give supplies and groceries to the most at risk during Corona. So it's just a really, really beautiful way that these brands have adapted their marketing campaigns and looked at what their customers were doing, getting a lot of inspiration from them and telling their story as well. So I'm going to leave you with a quote from one of my marketing heroes. I'm sure that you guys all know him very well. So marketing is no longer about the stuff you make, but the stories you tell. Products, businesses, people, you know, everyone needs stories to provide the context and to provide the human emotion. And that story is what provides the beginning and the middle and the end. So tell your story, whether it's your personal story, if you're looking for a new opportunity, or it's your company story and you're looking how to adapt your strategy after Corona. Interesting ways that you can tell this story and you can share this story with the world. So that's it from me. Thanks for listening to me. I think there was a slight technical glitch in the beginning, so I hope it didn't jeopardize the rest of my presentation. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if there's anything I can do to help you in your personal branding journey, giving you some advice. Please feel free to reach out and connect, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for sharing your inspiring story. And if anybody has questions for Sarah and about personal or company branding, please do ask now in the Q&A section, or of course, do reach out to her. And right now, we want to give the stage to Casper.
Awesome. Hey guys, I'll take it over from here. Some really good presentations so far already. Let me just share my screen. Share this one. Oops. This one and move this one. Okay. Exploring growth opportunities during crisis. What a fancy topic I came up with today. No, but I'm gonna go through some stuff today, and hopefully, like, I'll bring a lot of data in and inspire you a little bit. But firstly, just in case you haven't met me before, today I'm the head of growth at Templafy. I've been here almost 3 years. Been head of growth since the 1st of January. I used to be traffic manager before, meaning I controlled all our paid acquisitions on Google Ads and Facebook and all that stuff. I like to call myself a self-declared expert on the different medias, and I'm a huge nerd. Inbound marketing, superheroes, esports, chess. I have a little kid, and I'm married to a beautiful lady. Lastly, I also like to use emojis a lot. You'll probably notice. Okay, what I'm going to go through is I'm going to give you a little bit of context. Then I'm going to go through and say what's actually happening right now. What's the data showing us? Like, and what am I seeing out in the world, and how do I interpret this data? Then I'm going to show you a little bit of how do we take this data and actually apply it. Like, now we know all this stuff. What do we do with it? Like, what do I suggest you do with it right now? And then I'm going to give a little insight example. I've used AKQA today just gives you some inspiration. I don't have a lot of time, so I can't cover all the channels, but that has potential. But AKQA is definitely one of them. And as I said, my goal for today is a bit like to inspire you and kind of get you on the right track to growth. There's a lot of opinions out there on what you should do, and none is wrong and none is right. So let's see. Oh yeah, just a little bit of context on Templafy. So Templafy is kind of solving a problem we like to call document anarchy. It's essentially when everyday employees, they produce a lot of documents and presentations and emails. The problem is that they don't always use the latest company standards. So in that essence, that's what we call document anarchy. When we sell to customers, we typically focus on enterprises with at least 500 employees. And we typically sell the main stakeholders in the process, or typically senior marketing employees, especially brand managers, such as Sarah, where there's the pain of rolling out new brand logos or brand assets to all employees. At the same time, there's also these IT employees, especially now during COVID-19, where there's like a focus on digital transformation, the keyword here. They have to move these old enterprises from on-prem solutions to in the cloud-based ones, and that's a lot harder than you think. Not with Templafy though. Okay, so let's start with the data. So there's a lot of stuff happening, and I'm just going to go through it, and then we'll take it bit by bit, and then let's see where we go. So first of all, this is some data I pulled from a place called Common Thread Collective. They collect a lot of data on e-commerce specifically. So as you can see here on the data point here, there's something really interesting that happened around March. The black lines here showcase the new world, and so the real March, and the what do you call it, Turkish, turquoise. They showcase they showcase the benchmark of the date previous. So as you can clearly see, something happened to the cost per impressions. So essentially, in case you're not into this cost per impressions, just briefly, it's just saying how much does it cost to have 1,000 people see your ad. What essentially happened is that everyone pulled back spend. So everyone was like, pull the brakes, we're gonna slow down, we don't know what's happening, we're gonna cut budgets, blah, blah, blah. This resulted in a massive drop in cost per impressions across the board. As you can see now, this is slowly people have started listening to people like me and other people who say like, you shouldn't slow down your budget. On the contrary, you should actually probably increase it a little bit. And that's happened now, and now we're actually back to kind of a new normal. At the same time, something interesting happened. And this is, to me, a lot more about how consumers behaved. So the cost per impressions was how showcasing a little bit about how the companies doing advertising acted, but the CTR, click-through rate from on your ads, is more how consumers saw the ads. And the interesting part here is that consumer confidence really plummeted immediately after the COVID-19 breakout. And to translate it into layman terms, this is at least how I explained this to myself, is I'm trying to imagine that right when COVID-19 came out and everyone was focusing around it, you were like in the mindset of saying, I'm not buying anything now. Like I just need to bog down in my house and do whatever I'm focused on doing. So I'm not really in the mood for buying either a new pair of pants or a new software or whatever it is. So click-through rates went really down. We saw that on Templafy's own channels and as well. We also saw conversion rates dropping, which is also the same indication. But at the same time, we saw the cost per impressions were so cheap and cost per clicks were cheaper than ever. But now you also see here that quickly it normalized quite rapidly. I can't explain the crazy fluctuations going on still, but as you can see, it's pretty clear that we're getting to getting quite back to a new normal, and it's actually increasing now, which is interesting to me because that indicates that now people have accepted that they work from home, and now they're also accepted that they need to be looking at things like looking at pair of pants or software or stuff, whatever, from home, and hence they also use social media more. So it makes sense that it's higher than ever before. This is a bit of an indicator. So I pulled this data from some other guys. It's one of my growth buddies who sent it. So essentially, it shows how online sales have looked over the crisis. So online sales, as you can imagine, have increased month over month. So this is a very e-commerce example, but it kind of gives you the picture of where we're going with this. So February, there was a 7% increase, quite a normal, like that's a normal increase for, like quite normal increase for e-commerce. Whereas you saw a March increase by 27% and a 38 and 31% in April. The key thing for me here is that there's some trends here that are trending upwards, and we'll get to the B2B segment in a second. And the interesting part is the home and health and wellness, food and beverage. I saw the Danish numbers for food and not food so much, but more beverage. So specifically alcoholics were increased by 386% during Corona. A lot of people drink wine from home. So and there was a lot of apparel and stuff that increased. There are also definitely some stuff that trended downwards, which is interesting. So pets, general electronics, beauty, auto, some apparel and stuff like that. There's definitely something to it here. When we move over to B2B, where the space I'm mostly operating in, this was one of the defining factors for me. So looked at the relative growth of different categories on G2 Crowd. So in case you're not aware, G2 Crowd is this review platform. They're kind of competing against Capterra for the biggest spot. I think Capterra is technically bigger, but G2 Crowd is a little bit more sophisticated. So as you can see here, this data is from March around April. So it's not all new, but it's still showcasing a pretty good image. So audio conferencing tools were up by 565%. So the stuff we're doing now, right? Zoom, being on Zoom, and everyone realized that they needed this. They needed to be able to work remotely. This makes total sense, and there's not like it's not really like we're seeing some stuff I haven't seen before. Video conferencing, telemedicine, webinars, collaborative whiteboards, stuff like that. I can say Templafy is featured on G2Crowd and e-signature. That's part of our solution, so we also saw an increase. Interesting part, I've spoken to some of the people at Zoom and other of these tools that have seen a rapid expansion here, is that it's actually really hard for them to keep up. Like, especially if you take Zoom as a really good example. Slack is also an example. I've heard a talk from them, I think it was yesterday. Yep. And one of the problems is that they actually couldn't keep up. The demand was so high, you can't just go out and hire 5 times more the sales reps that you have already. So that was actually a bit of a luxury problem, but it's definitely a thing. Another graph here showcasing exactly the same that I'm trying to state here, that there are definitely some areas where we're trending upwards, right? Here specifically software, it makes total sense that these are trending upwards. Healthcare as well, doesn't surprise anyone. And this is what we call intent data based on some data from Bambora. I want to point out a thing before we go to the conclusions of this and like try to withdraw some stuff from it, is that a lot of things have actually changed in 8 weeks. So I agree with Steffen that nothing has changed on some levels, but there's also things that definitely have. And one of the things that have changed is the whole e-commerce penetration, hereby saying how many people buy stuff online. And there's definitely like the growth we've seen in the last 8 weeks is comparable to the last 10 years. So there's definitely something happening here. And if you're in this space of selling stuff online and doing software and stuff, well, then you're probably in a pretty good spot. But if you're not ready for, I would guess that if you're here today, you probably already work pretty much in digital. But let's just assume that you're not. Then you definitely need, this is definitely a trend that says you need to get there. You need to get to a point where you can treat people digitally. So some of the conclusions I made from this is essentially consumer confidence plummeted immediately. Then it's getting to a point now where it's almost back to normal, almost getting stronger. Conversion rates declined. We saw that. Traffic was less valuable, meaning a lot of advertisers pulled spend. I had a executive call with some of the CMOs from some of the biggest companies in the world. And one of the, most of them, 13 out of 15 people at the meeting said that the first thing they did was cut budget, which I was the only one to say I didn't. But my point being saying this was a normal reaction for a lot of marketeers. They were like, hey, we can't, we need to pull down and see where this is going. It's fine, but it was acting like based on fear, which I would never do. Anyways, auction-based networks, Facebook, Google, as I explained, competition was decreasing, and so did prices. So actually what we did also was actually increase our budgets in March and April and still have in May. Because what we're doing now is essentially generating pipeline for after once the prices are up again, which they already are, but it was actually the right approach at least. Yeah, it's a different thing based on industry, but that's just the last point. It's not super important. And you can see here from one of the headlines, this economic intelligence, that U.S. consumer confidence was lower than ever. Okay. So what do we do with this, right? Now we know there's a few things happening out there. How do we react to this? So first thing I want to say today is that you want to know your own data. It sounds super simple, but first of all, you want to start with saying, how is your industry impacted? Are we seeing these trends? Are they also happening in the industry I'm present in? How's the numbers? Are you holding up in the benchmark? That's kind of universal. It's relatively easy. Look at your click-through rate, your cost per impression, and your cost per lead. Of course, if you have a longer sales cycle, that's why you look at these numbers. But if you have a shorter sales cycles, you become more and more relevant. Are you closing customers? Exactly. This is kind of like normal stuff. It doesn't like reinvent the wheel, but essentially what you want to do is you want to start with your own data and see how you're holding up. Now, the second is like you want to move into a territory. Now is a really good time to say, okay, let's focus on growth. Let's do it by the first defining and using our North Star metric. So North Star metric is essentially a concept produced by a guy called Sean Ellis. Wrote a really good book about it. It's essentially a specific metric that best captures the core value that your product is trying to deliver to customers. Salesforce have this like as average records created per account, Airbnb number of nights per booked, and Adobe's engaged cloud subscribers and so forth. And Quora, in this case, a number of questions a user answers. Everything tied. So when a person acts and does this event, then it's tied directly to, they can directly correlate it to producing revenue and producing value for the company. So it's something like everyone can get behind. Sometimes you have this like, if I say, hey, I sold, we in marketing, we produced X amount of leads, and sales go, hey, we closed X amount of customers, and customer success goes, we prevented X amount of churn. That's 3 different metrics that everyone like is arguing about which one is the most important. Well, here everyone can get behind this metric. In Templafy's case, we've done this before the crisis, so it's not really just saying that this is something you should do now. Probably is we're saying it's daily active users for our product. So one thing we also did, and we've been doing this before, but this is what I recommended you should do now, is you should initiate what I call a growth process. So there's a bunch of different tools out there. I use the tool called Growth Hackers. Doesn't really matter too much. The part you want to do is you want to start focusing on ideation. And ideation is essentially creating ideas. So you can see here, I don't know, on the screen, I have a bunch of different ideas, and then I've scored them. So you can see there's different scores there. There's a bunch of different ways of doing it. I use the ICE, so impact, confidence, and ease. Yep, just forgetting how it works. Impact, confidence, ease, and that's how we score ideas. Then you want to get to a point where you can evaluate these ideas and where you can improve it. And it looks a bit like this, where you have like different workflows. So you have different ideas that are coming up. And the point of this is saying that this is a time where if you are one of those companies where your marketing budget has been like, hey, we're not, or maybe your head of marketing has said, or maybe your CEO has said, guys, we're not going to spend a lot on marketing right now. Then what you want to do is you want to experiment more and experiment to find areas where you can actually improve. That's probably not going to cost you a lot. So one of the first things we did was we identified that our communication needed to change. So we A/B split tested what happened if we actually put up this different headline. So we used to have a different headline. So now it says perfect business document creation, no matter where employees work. And that's kind of to fit into this whole working from home trend. At the same time, IntelliMize, which is like a personalization tool, provided some data to a guy called Guillaume. And I think it was really interesting because one of the findings was essentially saying that in their tool, they could see that there was a 35% increase in amount in experiments run by marketing departments. So the same thing happened is that the people keep like going, okay, we need to test now, and now it's a good time to find the optimal landing page. How does an optimal landing page look for us? And we want to convert on these keywords and so forth. Then lastly, you want to get to the point where you can identify your growth levers. There's a whole, like, we could talk forever on this. So I'm not going to go dive too much into it. I think it's just put it in a little bit more simplifying it. The important thing you want to do is, like, once you find something that's called a growth loop, where essentially you get a new way of getting users, can be from a channel or another way of doing it. Then there's a series of action steps that you generate this output, where it's a positive output, hopefully. These steps produce some output that can be directly reinvested. So like typically the reinvestment part is like, for instance, a referral loop. And then once you do this loop and once it keeps happening, so let's say I go out and I sign up for a product, and the first thing the product says is, hey, you have to actually invite a friend if you want to do this. Okay, cool, I'll do that. Then I'll invite and then by doing that, the cost per acquiring me actually drops because I also acquire another customer and so forth. That's a referral loop, essentially. Want to identify these types of growth levers. It's essentially what I'm trying to say is you want to find the way to produce compounding growth, and you want to hit that hard. So once you found that, keep going. And now is a good time to find it, especially if your budgets are down and everything. Let's say your budgets are not down. And let's say you're increasing stuff and you're trying to do a lot of cool stuff. I want to do this, a quick example. I'm running out of time, so I'll do it a little bit brief. But essentially what you're looking at is this. So typically you're looking at Facebook with Messenger, WhatsApp, and Instagram. That's like half of the playing field. And then you have Google, YouTube, Google Ads, Gmail, all that stuff on the other side. These two guys, generally speaking, represent about 90% of all digital ad spend. Insane, like totally insane. They represent a huge portion. The problem with that is that if you invest in just one of them, let's say you have your 80% invested in Facebook, and Facebook decides, well, you to have a Corona crisis like we did here, which is a perfect example, or there was another crisis where suddenly everyone was just investing on Facebook. Then suddenly, in this case, if in the case of Corona here, it's actually good to invest in Facebook. But let's just for hypothetically say that suddenly the prices went 3 times up, like the cost per click and or the click-through rate plummets or whatever. They just changed their layout, for instance. Then you're extremely reliant on that platform. And if you can't shift your budget to something else, you're losing out on a lot of leads and a lot of pipeline building. It gives you what I like to call a high-risk marketing profile. And my point is, there's so much potential in these platforms that are being used. Pinterest, especially for e-commerce, definitely take a look at Pinterest. It's very, very interesting space right now. Cool. Like LinkedIn, we all talk about LinkedIn. I don't want to dwell too much on LinkedIn. Love LinkedIn, but there's still a lot of potential there. Their platform is getting better and better. Quora and Reddit. I'm going to cover Quora right now, really brief in a little example, but there's also so much potential. Lastly, Capterra G2 Crowd, yes, a lot of potential, but also TikTok. I don't know about you guys, but I've been obsessed with TikTok recently. I think there's so much potential, but you have to do it right, and you have to do it organically. Maybe I'll do a talk on that someday. So first of all, let's talk about why Quora is interesting. So first of all, Quora has about 300 million unique users every single month. In comparison, that's 335 million on Twitter, 330 on Reddit, and 250 on Pinterest. How many departments do you know that focuses on the same level on Twitter as they do on Quora? Not that many, right? But they technically should, because it has the same amount of traffic. Like, there's so much organic traffic coming into Quora every single month. And as you can see here in the example from this guy at Arefs called Siquang Ong, I don't know. He's had almost 950,000 content views this in total, and around 50,000 this month. You can actually, what I'm trying to get to here is you can become a real thought leader on Quora. So what is essentially, like, this is a good example. This is from LinkedIn of saying, you can post whatever you want on Templafy's profile, and you can see, like, this is a little bit old data, but it just kind of gives you the picture already, that you can get a lot of impressions if you do really well in your post, but it's nothing compared to what you get on your personal profiles. And that's how the world is right now. Like, everyone trusts people. They don't trust necessarily brands. They trust people. So how do we find interesting questions you should engage with? So here's a little bit of a hack for you guys. So go to Arefs, one of the tools for doing SEO and PPC work in general. You can also use SEMrush. You can also use whatever tool you want to use. You type in Quora.com and you go to the top pages. Then in this case, I've done one here, top pages, and then you search for, in this case, I searched for branding, because branding is kind of interesting for us right now. And then I found some really cool questions being asked, or saying, what are good examples of mixed branding? What does it mean when something is on brand in marketing and branding, which are some of the questions we really want to help people answer, or at least understand. Be a part of this discussion, let's put it that way. And you can see here that there's 1,900 people going to the last question every single month. It's a lot of people. So what you want to do is essentially find those questions. You can also do it inside of Quora, and inside of the Quora ad platform, where you can go into the ad platform, and it looks a bit like this. And then you go to the part called contextual targeting. You say questions, and then you go to the little button called bulk ad to kind of hide it a little bit. Then you get an idea for how many weekly views the different questions you have posted get. Now, what you do is essentially you go in and organically, then you write a really good answer. The only premise is the answer has to be better than the other answers that are in there. That's simple. Typically, for a good copywriter, that's not hard, especially if you practice it. And you can also actually, as you can see here from the screen, you can also target these specific questions. You can target these questions with ads. So let's imagine you search for how, like the top question on here, like, what does it mean when something is on brand? Well, then Templafy, I personally answer that, and then I refer to Templafy, and at the same time, there's a Templafy ad on top of it. Well, needless to say, that's a really good starting point. That's it for me. I'm out of time here as well. But thank you, and thank you for listening in, guys.